Welcome to RGM. Are you in a band? Come and join us. Simply click on the RGM submission page, submit your music, and we'll sort the rest. We are here for another week, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, my favourite people. How you doing? You okay? Oh, nice one. You had a good weekend? Yeah. Yeah, I've not been to the horses yet. I'll tell you all about the horses. I'm recording this just before I go. This little introduction. So I'm in my suit. I'm ready to go now, like literally in a bit. So I'm basically getting this record ready to come out on Monday because I'm going to be hungover and I'll probably feel sick tomorrow to the pit of my stomach. So today, ladies and gentlemen, I'm recording this just before I venture over to Doncaster to the St Leger horses, the horses race. And yeah, I'm quite looking forward to it now. I do have to admit, I've been cynical about it all for quite a while now. I just need to wind my ass up, wind my neck in, and just crack on and enjoy myself. It's going to be fine. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here with a brand new guest for you this week. That's what the podcast's all about. And I've literally just come off the phone to Rick Witter from Shed 7. You need to say that. You already know who he is. Of course you do. Yeah, we did it over phone, this one, not Zoom. So it's the quality of a phone call. So I can't help it. That's how it was. It's fine. It's, you know, people use phones, don't they? I think these days. Do people use phones still these days for conversation? And it was... Rick, as always, has got a story to tell. And he tells loads during this podcast, ladies and gentlemen. So if you're... a fan of Shed 7, a fan of music, a fan of just chat and industry debate and conversation, you're in the right place because this is the RGM Experience podcast and that's what happens here. So, ladies and gentlemen, I got 25 minutes with him earlier and he's a beautiful soul, always got a story to tell. Ladies and gentlemen, Rick Witter. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're here joining up with Rick Witter. If you want to look back on the archives of the podcast, ladies and gentlemen, we last spoke to Rick back in episode 49 when we met him down at Tramlines. And Rick, I don't know if you can remember, but we had a little chat about where you were as a band, and you were just about to go on the big main stage and perform your big hits and that kind of stuff. But in the background, you were deep into writing the new album at that stage, and it was kind of like getting towards finalising the vision of this new record that's coming out soon that I want to talk to you about. So how's the process of the album been over the last year or so since we last caught up?
Well, it literally, weirdly, it only took us about 9 months from start to finish, which is kind of unheard of for us as a band.
Yeah.
It would usually take us at least 2-3 years.
Yeah.
So I think me and Paul found ourselves having a massive purple patch. Yeah. Ideas were just flowing, lyrics were pouring out of me, and we just thought, right, let's just crack on with this because at any point the tap could just turn off. Yeah. So, it was a really satisfying period of time because, as I say, we just found ourselves just coming up with the goods in quite an easy way, which is really a very strange thing. It doesn't usually happen like that. And I think you can hear that in the album. I think when we went to record it, we were all kind of really caught up in it and massively into it. And I think the songs speak for themselves. And I think the way we've recorded it, you can almost hear it as it's coming through the speakers. Yeah. So we're very excited about it, to be honest.
Yeah, nice. Well, was it like that in the early days, in the early albums? Was it easier? And then did it gradually get harder as you progressed into your career?
Well, funnily enough, I kind of class this a little bit like our second album, A Maximum High,
okay.
Which is one of our bigger albums. Yeah. Because at that point, we'd written the first album and released it. We'd had 4 years to write that before it came out and got a deal. And then suddenly you've got a deal and you've released the first album. Yeah. and then you're being told, where's the next one? So we literally had about a year to write a Maximum High. And it's kind of renowned that bands' second albums, it's got its own syndrome, the difficult second album syndrome. And we didn't really get that with the Maximum High. We just cracked on and did it within a year. And that album was kind of upbeat. I mean, there's songs on that album called Getting Better and Going for Gold. It was all positive and upbeat. And this album's probably the first time since then that we've kind of felt the same vibes as we were writing it. So, you know, Maximum High being probably our most fondly remembered album, we're kind of hoping that this one follows suit in that respect. Yeah. I mean, it's funny because we never really sit down and discuss what we're going to do ever, really. We just do it. Yeah. And me and Paul have been writing songs since we were 13. So we've never really changed the attitude, the mentality, how we go about writing songs to this day, really. But one thing I have kind of picked up on since we've finished writing it, I guess, is it's almost like we were looking back at our old mid-teenage selves while we were writing this. Yeah. So I remember occasions where me and Paul would be in my parents' kitchen or his parents' living room, and would be dancing around listening to what we were loving at the time. Yeah. And I can almost hear that coming out of the music. So, you know, when we were 14 and 15, we'd be into U2 and we'd be into Simple Minds and Duran Duran. And there's almost little nods to all of this going on, which is the only difference, I guess, with this set of songs. Yeah,
so I suppose, did you, like, looking back on Young Rick then?
God, he was cool. He was so cool, that lad.
Good lad, wasn't it? Yeah.
He was a good lad, yeah.
He was a good lad, wasn't it? Yeah, so how does it, you know, like what have you learned from, like, retrospectively looking back on Young Rick and coming through the music industry?
Well, I guess, like anything, the more you do something, the more experience you're going to get at it, whatever it is you do in life. Yeah. And I think we just found ourselves in that situation, really. We've all hit 50. So, you know, I just think with age comes more wisdom. I think also the nature of our career means that the fact we're still here doing it after so many years is testament to what we've achieved in the past. But it also makes us feel now that we've got less to prove. We can just do what we want to do without worrying about what people might judge us on, you know. I mean, the music industry's massively changed over the years. And in a way, it's satisfying to know that we're still here doing it and making a living out of it, because it is such a fickle industry, the music industry. And you know, a click of a finger and you can be gone. And especially nowadays, because if you say the one word wrong out of place, you can be cancelled. So, you know, the fact that we have hit 50 years old and this is what we've done for over half of our lifetimes, and we're still here doing it. But I think, you know, I wouldn't use the word luck, because I think what we do is amazing and I think we're very good at doing it. But to still have such a really cool, good core fan base that just dine out on what we do is just an amazing feeling. And it means we put gigs on and they sell out straight away. People know what they're going to get at these gigs. You know, I mean, it's funny because obviously people of our age group now, it's not as easy as just getting a ticket to a gig. They've got to sort out the babysitters. They've got to make sure everything else is in place. They've got to wonder, am I going to have too many pints because it's a Tuesday night and I've got to get up for work the next day? But none of that seems to apply, really. You know, I mean, I think this seems to happen more and more. The more we play, certainly over the past 10 years, but it seems to happen more and more now, where we'll do a gig and we'll walk out on the stage and there's literally just loads of kids in the room, you know, and they're all wearing Shed 7 t-shirts and they're all singing every word. So, you know, in that respect, it just means that because they're having such a great time, they'll come again with the parents when they're 7 and when they're 9 and when they're 11 and when they're 13. And because they'll keep coming back, hopefully loving what we're doing, we are the new Rolling Stones.
Yeah.
I mean, it's as simple as that.
That's the quote for the podcast. There we go. So does it, one little thing I picked up there, so does it worry you, cancel culture, and being a public figure yourself, and maybe being from a different, like myself, I'm a similar age, for, it's more difficult for us older people to realise we might say the wrong things, just if you know what I'm saying there.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, I totally get it. You do bump into older folk and they'll just say it how they think it is. But the world moves on at the end of the day. Things change. And I'm canny enough to keep my thoughts to myself if I disagree with something, because what is the point in opening up a debate or an argument or getting yourself cancelled for something that doesn't really relate to you? If I was passionate about something, then I would voice my concerns. But, as far as I'm concerned, each to their own, really. Yeah. Live and let live. Live and let live. Love and let love.
It's got to take something massive to even dent trying to cancel Shed 7, surely. Jesus, nobody's stopping that, are they?
Well, we're a juggernaut, mate. We're a juggernaut. And funnily enough, it's funny because next year, 2024, is our 30th anniversary since the debut album came out. So
I remember it. Wow.
Next year is going to be a busy old year for us. We're going to announce loads of things sporadically over the next few months that we're doing next year. But all I can say is, if you are a fan of Shed 7, I'd buckle up. And if you're not so much a fan of Shed 7, find the nearest big rock. You're going to need it.
That's all. You mentioned earlier that you were flowing with songs and you felt like you had to get them down and just go with just go with how things were going creatively for you. How do you manage like creative control and quality control on an album that you're bringing out? How do you manage that side of things?
Well, quite easily, to be honest. Yeah. We know what we want to hear, and we know how we want to sound. So I would be the first one if things weren't going how I was expecting them. I'd be the first one to voice an opinion on it. I mean, quite obviously, you write songs and then you go into the studio, and obviously they're going to change slightly. But as long as you've got the initial essence of it, then all it can do is make it better, to be honest. I mean, we went to Spain to record this album, and it took us 3 weeks, and we went there with a set of demos and came back with a fully formed adult album. So it was an amazing experience to see these things take shape whilst recording them. And that's why it's great sometimes to release bonus editions with demo versions of the songs, because if you're a true fan, you can see the story of the song and how it kind of progresses through a period of time. There's a few songs on there where we didn't even have middle eights in the songs, and the producer who produced it, Youth, he's a big fan of a middle eight. So, one day we'd be showing him the song that we were going to record that day, and he'd be saying, "Where's the middle eight?" And we'd be going, "Well, we haven't written a middle eight for this one, Youth." And he'd say, "You need a middle eight. Go in that room over there and don't come out until you've written a good middle eight." So, it's work, it's like me and Paul would then trundle off to a room looking like scolded school children, walking into a room, and then we'd come out 20 minutes later with a great middle eight. So, it's all good fodder, really.
Yeah, no, I love that. And, I'm from a certain area, a similar age to yourself, Rick, and albums back in the day were kind of like, they were a piece of art, weren't they? They were, you had to have a point in the album where things slowed down a little bit and things pick back up again, and there's an even flow throughout the whole album. How do you do that as a creative? I've never written an album before, but I'm just fascinated with the process of it.
Well, I like your age chat, because that is so important. Yeah. That is something that a lot of people wouldn't even consider. But for me, it's just as important as the songs that you're writing. It's how it flows. It's got to tell a story. So yes, we spend an awful lot of time working out the track listing, and we not massively, because usually there'll be discussions. I mean, band life is like being married. It really is. It's there's disagreements, there's love, hate, there's hurdles you have to overcome. But again, an age thing means that you understand the importance of things the older you get and what's not so important. So, you know, when we're discussing track listings, we even consider the vinyl side of things. We don't just consider it on the digital release or a CD. We consider people who might buy it on vinyl. So the track 6 that ends side A has to be really good, because that means that if it's a really good track, you're going to want to get up off your bum and turn it over. And then track 7, the first song on side B, has to be brilliant. And obviously the first track and the last track have to make sense. So I think we've done a great thing with the sequencing of it. But it goes even deeper than that for me, because when it's being mastered, that's when you have to decide the gaps in between the songs. You know, a lot of bands would just have the standard 2, 3, 4 second gaps. But, you know, when we'd worked out the track listing for this album, the very first song on the album is like a 2-minute bit of a bombshell kind of track, quite a fast in-your-face track. And I wanted that to jump straight into the next song, so that people were going, "Wow, whoa, that was quick." Yeah. You know, it's very important to think of. So I'm even wondering about silence on our record.
Wow.
And how much of it should happen.
Do any songs like bleed into each other, like, you know, an old Beatles record or like that?
Yeah. There's a little bit of that going on as well. Yeah, and obviously, again, with the sequence of the songs, we kind of understood that should blend into that a little bit rather than just have a pause. Yeah. So there's an awful lot of that going on.
Nice.
I think it's an album that I think might be around for a while, if you know what I mean. It's one of these where I think if you like us, you're going to love it. I think I can kind of almost guarantee a Shed 7 fan that if you like our past stuff, you're going to like this. You really are. But I'm kind of hoping that people who perhaps have a bit of a downer on us, or people who've never heard of us, I'm hoping that they kind of pick up on it and take it to their hearts.
And what, we're talking number 1 then, or what?
Well, who knows? Who knows? We've never had one of them. So that'd be nice, wouldn't it? I mean, we'll keep persisting until we have one. So
okay, fair enough.
If we are still here in 30 years and we're talking about it, then hopefully by that point we would have had one.
You might only need like 15 sales in the future to get a number 1 album or something like that.
Well, that's the way things. Yeah, that's it. That's the way things go, isn't it? Yeah.
I was having a good look at the album cover earlier and the artwork on it, and that looked like a bit of fun. To the picture of you with the burning. Newspaper and that kind of is that like a nod to, you know, how the media is, that burning flame coming out?
Well, there's lots of nods on that cover. You know, yeah, there might be a little bit of that involved. There's, you know, it's funny because it took about 20 takes to get that album cover, because we had a pile of newspapers, and literally 5 seconds after setting it alight and taking a picture, it was nearly burning my hands off. So I kept having to throw the paper away and getting a new one. You know, there's a song on the album called Starlings, which is a lovely song, and that's, you know, you'll notice top right, there's a flutter of birds up there in the sky. There's lots of little references to what's within the album on the cover. I won't give too much away because it's nice for people to try and work these things out. But yeah, there's a bit of that, and there's a little bit of end of world vibes going on there. You know, a bit kind of barren, wastelandy kind of end of world thing going on. There's a song on the album called Real Love that's probably one of the most political songs I've ever written. It's basically all about how rubbish the government is. People will hear that song and probably not pick up on that, so which is what I'm telling you, because they'll just think it's about love. But real love, it's so hard to find. It's all about us as people and how we're being treated and how we're being ruled, you know. So it goes. It's a deep album. I'm excited for people to hear it.
And did you burn yourself? Because I was worried about you as soon as I saw the album. I thought, you must have had singed something.
Well, I managed to be singed free, but only by my own quick wit.
Yes, okay, fair dues. You know, I can see you've got a big tour coming up in October too, but it's pretty much all sold out at the minute. Is there just has everything sold out now?
There's just a handful left to Stoke on a drizzly Monday night, but I'm sure there's still about 5 weeks before we hit Stoke, so I'm sure it'll be fine. I mean, there's only a few left anyway, so it's great to know that we can still put on shows in this day and age, and they sell out really quickly. But I think that kind of says something about us and how good we are live, and the amount of hits that we can fit into the set. The only problem that we have is we keep writing new songs, which means what gives, what do we not play? Because there's certain songs from our back catalogue that we couldn't get away with not playing. So we've got to the point now where obviously we want to play some brand new tracks. So in the past we would have the room to perhaps say, I'll tell you what, why don't we play that really old B-side that we like? Or why don't we play that 8th album track off A Maximum High? But I think them days are numbered now, because there's just too many new songs to fit in, and too many hits that we can't not play. So unless we decide that we're going to do a Bruce Springsteen and play for 4 hours a night, and if we went down that route, I've lost 2 gigs and then I've been knackered. So,
well, just to end today, mate. Did you see the hoo-ha in the news about a post that a new young artist called Lucy May Walker put out about gig etiquette?
Yeah,
did you see that?
Yeah,
I've actually got her as a guest coming up on the podcast.
Have you? Well, say hello to her. I've never met her, but say hello.
Yeah, well, I definitely will. How do you feel about all of that? How the crowd should be. Do you think there should be kind of rules, or just to finish, how do you feel about those type of things?
Well, I can totally understand where she's coming from in the respect that, you've got to show a little bit of respect. There's times where we'll be singing a song, a slow song. We've got a song called Better Days off the last album, and that to me is a lovely, heartfelt song. But because it's a bit more sparse and less in your face, it's difficult when you've got your eyes shut and you're singing something that means so much. And there's certain people in the crowd that you can maybe see or envisage with tears in their eyes. And then you can hear a group of people just having a chat about what they're going to have for the tea next week. And it's like, come on, you're only here for an hour and a half. You can discuss that at any point in your life. So I kind of get it. But on the other hand, there's been so many gigs we've done where I've been clonked over the head with a pint of cold or warm beer. The warm beer is more of a worry, to be honest with you, because you don't get warm beer, do you?
No, you don't.
So, I did gigs all through the 90s where that was happening all the time. So it's a 50-50 thing for me. I understand it. When I go to a gig, I'm certainly not creating a distraction. I want to be there to watch the artist, but I don't think there should be rules as such, because it's not rock and roll. If you're suddenly being ruled, rock and roll is rock and roll, But I can totally sympathise with what she's saying. For anybody who's on a stage, they're on the stage because they're performing and they want to be heard. So I think what it is this generation it's very me. So I think a lot of people who go to these gigs now and act in that way, and obviously I'm generalising, I don't mean everybody. I think they want their friends who aren't with them to know that they're there, rather than just stand there and enjoy themselves, because that's what it's all about. It's entertainment, it's art. I guess it's the same. We did a gig. We actually played 2 nights at the Leeds University about 10, 12 years ago. One of them was on a Saturday and one of them was on a Sunday in the same venue, and both were sold out. So we did the Saturday. I think Leeds United had played at home that day. So the Saturday night gig was a Saturday night gig. There was pints being thrown everywhere, rowdy crowd Saturday night. Then we played the same gig the following day in the same room to a sold-out crowd on a Sunday, but quite clearly it's a Sunday, so it's a Sunday crowd. People are probably thinking, right, well, I'm up for work in the morning, I won't be... So it was a different kind of crowd, and I think we'd got about 5 songs in on the Sunday, and I was singing a song by us called Ocean Pie, which again is quite slow and heartfelt. And halfway through, I got clonked on the head with a pint, but nobody else was throwing anything. And it was like 2,000 people in this room. So I carried on singing the song, and I'm thinking, well, my shirt's wet now as I'm singing the song. But then I suddenly thought, well, hold on a minute. Nobody else is throwing anything, so why would one person in a slow song decide to throw their pint at my head? Yeah. So at the end of the song, I said to the crowd, who threw that? And then somebody halfway back put the hand up, which I thought was a bit bizarre in itself, admitting it. So I got the security at the front to go and get him and bring him to the front of the stage so that I could talk to him. So I'm stood on the stage and this lad's in the pit down below me, and I'm saying to him, why did you throw that at me? And he's saying, I don't know. Yeah. I'm saying, well, what do you do for a living? And he said, I work in an office. So I said, well, how would you like it if I came to your office tomorrow at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and threw a pint over you? Because I'm doing a job of work here. Yeah. And he went, I wouldn't like it. So I said, the only way we're going to resolve this issue is if I throw my pint back on you now. So I got my pint and threw it all over his head. Minus the glass, of course. Yes. And it probably got the biggest cheer of the whole night. More than any of our songs that we played that night. Oh. So, you know, it swings and roundabouts, really, isn't it? I mean, you never know what you're going to get at a gig, and that's half the kind of excitement and the thrill of doing it, really.
Well, come on, Stoke. Last few tickets left for the gig. Within the description of this podcast is going to be a pre-save link to order the new album as well. A Matter of Time, out on the 12th of January. I've gone slightly over, Rick. I do apologise, but I really appreciate your time today, mate, and I wish you all the best for the tour and the new album, mate.
Thank you, Carl. Nice speaking to you.
Thanks, mate. Have a nice day.
Good, man. Cheers, mate. I'll see you.
Well, there you go. Mr. Witter, the forever glowing personality and all-round nice guy. Mr. Rick Witter, head lead singer of a band it's covered my whole life. Shed 7, really, looking back. I'm similar age to the boy. But it's some great songs throughout the year, and I'm really excited about the new album. If you are too, pop onto the description within the podcast. There is a pre-save link for the new album, A Matter of Time. It's out on the 12th of January. Pre-order now, vinyl and all that kind of stuff. A couple of tickets left for Stoke. If that's the only date left on their October tour, that's available too. We did have a very good chat. I did mention in the podcast there that I've been speaking to Lucy May Walker, the girl that had a lot of media going on this week, you know, on the telly and stuff with Rowetta. Did you see that? The girl talking about gig etiquette. And I'm finalising a date to get her on the podcast, just to have our little chat as well, guys. So I'm always on it. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you've enjoyed the podcast, stick around. If you're new, if you're a Shed 7 fan and you're listening for the first time, hey up, stick around. Some plenty of good stuff in the archives. And if you want to listen back to the previous episode that we did with Rick, that's number 49 back in the archives. Plenty more going on in there too. So, ladies and gentlemen, I wish you all the best for this week, wherever you are. If you're in your car, if you're on your way to work, if you're struggling, if you're doing all right. Wherever you are, whatever state you're in, we adore you all. So, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us today for a brand new podcast with me, Carl Maloney, that guy from RGM. I wish you all the best, and I will say toodle-oo. Welcome to RGM. Are you in a band? Come and join us. Simply click on the RGM submission page, submit your music, and we'll sort the rest. Hello. Did you know that you can support our podcast in many ways? Within the description of this podcast, you will see a list of all the equipment that we use. These are Amazon affiliate links. Clicking on these links take you to Amazon. If you buy whatever you're planning that week, we get a small kickback, and you get a parcel at no extra cost. We would really appreciate your support. Or you can just go old school and donate £1 or whatever you feel is appropriate in there. Please subscribe, tell a friend about our show, and thank you for your support, and we'll see you next week.